Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cursing Seamstress, where I show you the things that I have recently sewn and embroidered. I also do some pattern reviews, and I'd like to start with that right now. I showed you before boys rompers that I made with McCall's M6304. So I made a bunch of boys rompers, and I think I've shown you most of them. I finally decided to give the girls' dress a try, and so that's what I did. And I'd just like to show you the dresses. It's the dresses are really pretty big. The pattern is for 2, 3, and 4. And after I made them, I just, I kind of did a double take because they looked so big. All right, I'm going to start with the first one that I made. This is the size 4. This is it. This, I apologize because I sewed it and I finished it, and the markings that I had put on there for the buttonholes, I tried to get them out with water, and I ended up just soaking the fabric, and then when it dried, the markings were still there, so I had to wash it. I washed it on a gentle cycle, and I did dry it in the dryer. It's a little bit wrinkly, but so please excuse that. But this is it. This is a very fine corduroy in a it's a light coral, I guess, color. I did not embroider anything on here. It was the first one that I was making, and I was a little bit reluctant to take the time to do the embroidery and then have it not come out. So I did not put anything on here. It's quite long. Like I said, this is the 4. The back was not difficult. There are 4 buttons, I think, down here. This was interesting. There was actually a pattern piece to cut for this, and you had to open this skirt all the way out to a straight line and then put this on. I just used bias tape. I had some pink, and there is some pink in here. This fabric I got from Goodwill, or actually I don't know if it was Goodwill. It may have been Goodwill. It was a thrift store. But as a matter of fact, I think I got it on the very same day, and these fabrics just coordinated really well in color. So this needs a good ironing, but it turned out really well. But again, for a size 4, it just looks so big. It looks more like a size 6. I think it is meant to come down to a few inches above the ankle, but even so, I think it's quite large. The second one I made, I became just a little bit braver to diverge from the original pattern, and I did so. And this is a size 2. It's still so big. I did put an embroidery here. I coordinated the colors, a very dark brown, and then the greens that I picked up from the skirt. And the back, again, 4 buttons. I did not do that piece in the back. I just overlapped, and it doesn't show because it mixes with the gathers. I stitched this hem on the machine. I don't know if I've said this before, but I hate gathering. It's one of my least favorite things. I don't like hand sewing either. So whenever I can, I stitch a hem on the machine, and I prefer that. And I also tacked down the inside of this a little bit differently. Originally, the pattern has that you attach the skirt to the bodice front, leaving the lining free, and then you fold the bottom of the lining over and you hand sew it. I got really lazy at this point, and I did not do that. I just left this free. I serged it and folded it up so that it hangs loose, and I just tacked it down at the seams to keep it in place. But and that worked out fine. And then I got a little bit more creative, And I thought that I would make a little blouse, and this again is a size 2. And this is the little blouse. I put a, I guess it's a B on the front, again picking up the colors in this little gathered part at the bottom. This time I used 3 buttons. I did not need any closure at the back right here. This is free. And I did the same thing with the lining. I let the lining hang free on the inside, and I didn't even tack it down. But I thought that was really kind of cute. So that's what I've done with that pattern. So I just wanted to show you that. And I wanted to show you a couple of things that I bought that are definitely worthwhile. Well, this one I don't know if it's worthwhile. I have been using, when I sew, a lot of times I'll want to starch the fabric and steam iron it to get it nice and flat, to get the wrinkles out before I do anything with it. And I was watching a quilting video channel, and the woman on there, who was a very experienced quilter, recommended this product. This is a non-aerosol starch. It comes with a separate sprayer. I ordered this from Amazon. This is called Mary Ellen's Best Press, the clear starch and sizing alternative. When I saw this, I realized that I needed it. The aerosol starch that I'm using probably is several years old. I don't really use starch on my clothing, so it's pretty much solely used for sewing. And so I noticed that when I would spray the starch on lighter fabrics, sometimes it would come out in a dark color, like a brown color, and it would ruin the fabric. And sometimes I would just toss the fabric away, or if it was worth it, I would throw it in the washing machine and wash it. But it was kind of a hassle, and you can never really tell when it's going to do that. So I thought I'd try this. If you know anything about Mary Ellen's products, about the starch, let me know below. The other product that I bought, when I was ironing my fabrics, I noticed that I would oftentimes melt the heads of the pins that I was using. I'm trying to find one in here that I melted. This one, I think, as it got melted. And I had heard before that it was good to use glass-topped pins. And so I did. I found these from Dritz. These are called quilting pins. I don't know the diameter, but they're a finer gauge than these yellow-headed pins that I've been using. These two are Dritz. I think Walmart might even sell these. I'm not sure. But the head is a little bit smaller, I don't know if you can see that. And they're a finer gauge. So they're really nice. I wish I had bought these a long time ago. I would absolutely repurchase those. They enter into the fabric. They're very sharp. They enter into the fabric very well, and are easy to work with, and you can iron right on top of them without worrying about melting the plastic. Okay, now on to just a few final things. This is an outlier. I just, for a friend of mine, I did a bib. I've shown you these before. This was leftover fabric. It's Waverly from Walmart. I don't know if you can see the name that's embroidered on there, but it says Olivia. The back is simply terry cloth in a turquoise. I use a Velcro closure. I just cut it to the correct size, and it folds over. And it's very feminine and very pretty. And you could find these online. I actually found the pattern to cut out online and printed it out, and I think it's still the original that I'm using. You just cut two of the outer and the inner layer and sew them right sides together, leave a space for turning, and turn it, clip your corners really well and your curves really well. So that's that, very simple. But the latest thing that I've been doing, and I've told you before that I sort of get hooked on one thing and I just sew it over and over again in different variations. So I have tried this before without really watching a YouTube video, just on my own, and wasn't very successful. So I watched some YouTube videos and I went to, I think it's either Instructables.com or Instructables.net, and I found a couple of patterns. One of them I did write down. This one is from there. This is a YouTube video. It's Arts and Crafts for You, and the 4 is the number 4. Arts and the and is written out. Crafts number 4 U, Y-O-U, and she had an eyeglass case that I liked. So I wrote out the instructions. I keep it in a binder for that one. And then this one that I think is from Instructables, I wrote that one out also. I draw myself a little diagram so I can remember exactly how to recreate it. And so I'll show you. Now, from Instructables, I'll show you those first. Instructables is just cutting out, Instructables has more than one of the eyeglass case patterns, but the one I used uses, it's 8.5 by 8.5. You do use on both of these that I'll show you fusible fleece, which I never really worked with before, but it's wonderful. It's very easy to make stick. And the fusible fleece that I bought, I think I got at Walmart. It did not come with instructions. I just ironed it with some steam, and it works fine. So this one is 8.5 by 8.5, I think, and then you fuse the fusible fleece onto the outer side, and of course I couldn't do without putting an embroidery graphic on there. So this is this, and put a little dog on there. It's very simple. This white fabric I got, again, from a thrift store. I lined it in the same. It's nice and cushy. This, by the way, fits sunglasses, so it's a little bit bigger. It's really not meant to, it's too big for these little readers. But sunglasses go in here really nicely, and this was a little free dog design I thought was adorable. With that same pattern, I made this. This, again, is Walmart fabric, Waverly. I put some sunglasses on here. The inside is white, and again, it's nice and cushy. This I did this morning. These are so quick to do. I put a dog on here. I was trying to initially, and I'll show you, initially I was putting the design just on one side, and it was kind of hard to center it. This is not centered. It's almost centered because of this handle here, but the handle is just a little bit further from the edge than the end of the coffee cup. And so this I put the little kids fabric that I used to make a boy's romper with. So so that's that. So then I thought it was really hard to just center it on a quarter piece. So I started using the whole piece because it's opened out and you fold it over. That 8.5 piece is folded over. So what I started doing is just putting the design, centering it on the 8.5 piece right in the middle. And then you can see half of the design on one side and the other half on the other. And certain designs are going to look better than others. That's Georgia the Wonder Dog in the background barking at something. But this was a free design. It's like an English Springer Spaniel. And I added a loop here so that you can attach your case to your purse or whatever. And I lined it with the same fabric. So that's the Spaniel. And this, I did the same thing with, I used the entire 8.5 piece of fabric centered, and it's actually I think it was supposed to be a wolf. I think it's Little Red Riding Hood that this came from, but it's a wolf, and you see half of his body, mostly his face here, and then the back of him is here. This I embellished with a ribbon that coordinates with the inside. You've seen this TP fabric before from me. And I put, again, another little loop here. The final case that I made, I thought I would like this one better, and maybe I would if it had some embroidery on it, or I had embellished it a little bit more. This one is from the YouTube video that I mentioned earlier. This one has a snap, and it folds over to keep your glasses from falling out of the case. This is, the instructions here you have to pay a little bit more attention to, but the fabric that you cut out is actually 5 by 20. You cut that twice. And anyway, you can watch the video and see what you think about it. It's a little bit, you have to pay a little bit more attention, but the lining is the same in this case. And it's just a little bit too simple, maybe. This is the Disney fabric. This was a Disney sheet that I got from Goodwill or some other thrift store that I have cut up and made into a zillion things, and this is sort of the last of it. So that's that one. It's a lavender color. There you go. You can see it a little bit better. These snaps are wonderful. These are, my bra straps are showing. These are Babyville snaps. I bought the entire kit with everything in it, the clamp that you use to combine the outer and the inner snap piece, and it comes with an awl, a screwdriver, and a bunch of other things that I really haven't needed to use. There is a learning curve, at least there was for me, but I've gotten the hang of it. But this morning when I got it out to finish this off, I had to pause and really look at it again to make sure that I attached the correct back piece to the snap. When you put a snap on, this piece goes on both the male and the female side. So this isn't common for both. What's different is this piece and this piece. So you just have to make sure in the clamp that you center everything properly and give it a good squeeze to make sure it adheres well. So that's that. I can't think of anything else. I know I've made more than what I've shown you. I've been really busy. Next time, I think what I'll show you is my new sewing machine. I love Pfaff, and I bought my first Pfaff back in the 90s, I guess, when I was sewing a lot. It was an embroidery and a sewing machine. I never used the embroidery feature. That was in the old days where you would have to hook up the machine directly to your computer. I never really had an interest in doing the embroidery, but I love to sew, and I made tons of clothing for me and for my daughter, including Halloween costumes and things like that. Not so much crafts, mostly clothing. Then I bought my second Pfaff 3 years ago. It was an embroidery / sewing machine. Of course, now it's a USB thumb drive that you use. It is just wonderful. I just love all the features of the Pfaff. And I was debating on what happened was I got tired of switching my Pfaff from the embroidery to the sewing machine. It's not that difficult to do, but it's just hard when you're sewing something and you need to put something on there, an embroidery design, and you have to switch it all out, do the embroidery design, switch it all back to finish what you're sewing. And I found that I was doing things in an assembly line. I would have a pile of things that I had sewn up into a certain point and that I needed to embroidery on. So I'd have that pile, I'd switch it to the embroidery machine, do all the embroidering, and then switch it back to a sewing machine so I could finish up whatever project it was. That got old. So I was either going to upgrade my embroidery machine to a multi-needle embroidery machine via maybe Baby Lock or even Brother. I know that's more expensive. Wasn't sure if I wanted to go that route or not. What I ended up doing was going to my FAF dealer and buying another FAF sewing machine only. And I ended up with the Expressions 5.0. And it has all the same features that my embroidery slash sewing machine has, especially the fact that it has the needle down position, of course the auto threader, the IDT system, and it uses the same size bobbins. It uses the same feet. So I don't have to go out and purchase new feet. They're interchangeable with my embroidery slash sewing machine. So what I have done now, I've rearranged my sewing room and I am keeping my embroidery machine set up as an embroidery machine all the time. And then I have the other FAF sewing machine that is set up all the time. The only thing that I'm keeping on the floor, and I'll pull up when I need to, is my serger. So it has made a world of difference. I had some trepidation about doing that because I ended up paying $2,000 to do this. It was cheaper than going with a multi-needle machine, but still, as a matter of fact, when I got home, I did not sleep. I think I was just so wired up about the purchase. But it's been a good thing. I've been sewing a lot more, and it's just made it so much easier to have both machines set up so I can go from one to the other. So that's all I have. I'll plan on showing you my machine next time and go over some of the features that FAF has that make me love it so much. So until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and until next time, bye-bye.